Yes, I'm Tomislav Dobutović. I'm originally from Croatia, but I'm serving in Bosnia and Herzegovina for past 25 years, and I'm serving as a pastor and the leader of the local church and leader of the Baptist Union and also of the Evangelical Alliance. And it's a joy being in this country, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Mm-hmm. I come from east of Croatia. My hometown is called Vinkovci, and that's like 45 minutes drive from Osijek, 30 minutes drive from the highway to Zagreb. Yes, we are now sitting in a place called Kairos Center, and the center is here because we want to reach out to society, to people of Sarajevo. So yes, church work and the pastoral work is part of it, but also there are other things that are my passion and also the reason why we are here. And normally we have, of course, church services, prayer meetings, youth meetings, ladies meetings, Bible studies and things, but also we are often doing street evangelism. We are doing English language classes, creative workshops, business trainings, humanitarian work, refugee work. We want to be alive. That's what we like. To be lots of noise, lots of people coming through, receiving guests, accommodating conferences, youth conferences, you name it. I think the biggest meeting we had in the center was the mission conference of the European Baptist. If I'm right, we were around 120 people, so we can accommodate in apartments and the dormitories approximately 26, plus we have folding bags, we can go up to 40, but also we use small hostels and accommodation around, and the worship room meeting hall is big enough, and a dining hall to eat in 2-3 shifts, so it was exciting. We like when it's full like that. But we also had other people in the building, and we like when it's full. Yes, I get to know Johannes, I believe, first time when I was student in Osijek Theological Seminary, and he came to teach missions, and that was probably the beginning of his time in Croatia, right in the war or after the war. And then a few years later, my wife Lydia and myself, we were in Sarajevo to replant the church that was here and also help with the humanitarian aid and other ministries. So we started partnering together with Hilfe Concret. I think the big thing that happened was when there was a NATO bombing of Serbia and also Kosovo war, and people from Kosovo and Sanjak were here. It was a huge number, I believe it was around 1 million. And the government did coordination because they just couldn't manage, there was so much. So they called all the churches asking if there is a humanitarian program or something, and we responded, got to the coordination meetings, end up receiving 6,000 IDs to cover 6,000 people to come for food packages and clothes and other items that we would give out. We were renting a huge storage just on the outskirts of Sarajevo. It was a huge project, and Hilfe Concret and Johannes, they provided a lot of help, and of course also European Baptist and the Baptist World Alliance and some of the other partners, but Hilfe Concret was probably the largest partner. The challenge in the beginning was that there was really nothing done by the government, and it's a complex political situation in Bosnia, and we have 2 entities, Federation and Republic of Srpska, then we have District Brčko, and then 3 members of presidency and different political parties, and it's just not easy to unite in decision what needs to be done, and that also affected the refugee situation, because some of the parts would like to be very friendly and receiving refugees, some don't want refugees at all. Typically, Republic of Srpska says that's not our problem. They immediately send people to Federation. Then the 2 hotspots, Sarajevo and Bihać area, and sometimes it's not easy. And it took some time for government to decide how and what should be done. For example, at the very beginning, every refugee was going to the Office for Foreigners to register and give attention for asylum. That's the first paper you will need to be doing. And I still remember they are sitting outside of the fence and we are bringing sandwiches and water and they're waiting for hours. Sometimes they had to overnight because they couldn't be received the same day. And then, of course, later government improved and they moved the office to the refugee camp, or refugee camps more precisely. They had the registration office in each camp so that the thing can be done at the entrance there. But that's just a small example how slow and how complicated things are. And of course, sometimes, but it's a personal impression, I think that the government didn't like refugees to get very comfortable. It is very easy. So they were not really in favor of anybody who was really providing a good help. Because they thought if there is not good help, they would realize that it's hard here and they will move through faster. And many of the NGOs and the foreign volunteers faced issues with the Office for Foreigners, and some were expelled. And one of the things that the Office for Foreigners decided at the end is you cannot really help refugees and serve as a tourist. So if you have a right to stay here as a tourist for 90 days, they don't want you to be working, volunteering in these 90 days. And some of my friends that we worked with, they were expelled because they find them at the spot when they were helping and they said, oh, you're working and you don't have a working visa. And they said, no, we are just giving this out, or we are just drinking coffee. They said, no, you cannot do this. And so now when we have volunteers who want to help, we start the process of visa, and then as soon as you're in the process, you get a paper that the visa is coming out, and then you can start volunteering. And the numbers were up and down. Usually in the winter, number of refugees is more stable. In the summer, they are more going for game, and so the approximate stay in the refugee camps during the nice weather is very short. Could be 2-3 days only, and it's just constantly people coming in, just refreshing, resting, getting some food, sleep, and then they continue. But in the winter, they can stay longer, and especially if they have kids and the parents want kids to attend the school, they will stay until the school year is over, and then they'll give another attempt to go for a game. And so, there are many needs. It's kind of basic stuff are more or less covered in the camps. I mean, there will be some meal, morning, noon, and evening. But when you come to deeper, when you want to really have some life, you cannot be just sitting around, then they need education. It's very important. Some training, some language skills. Kids need some entertainment, something valuable, something that will contribute to their development. So there are many areas that are not covered because they are not so basic. But those who are not in camps, for them everything is a struggle. Food is a struggle. They need food, they need clothes, they need shoes. For example, right now it's snowing in Sarajevo, and many don't have a good shoes for snow. And often we would meet refugees in the winter coming in flip-flops, like going to beach, and then finally they would receive shoes if we are able to provide this. But also, when you think, if you are somewhere for a long time, you don't want to just eat rice and potato. And they do need, and often we brought like a fresh fruit, fresh vegetables. Our kids want candies, they're kids. Many times we brought to Camp Ushibak, for example, just candies and chocolates and juice. Something when they are playing and they are preparing for school that they can a little bit feel like a child, like a human, not just receiving so much basic, and that's it. Oh yeah, there are people around the church, or church members, but also church friends, people who have refugee work on the heart, they like to help. And we have a very positive experience with church people getting involved when they have time. But I was pleasantly surprised with people from neighborhood, just seekers who came to church sometimes, but then they find out about what we are doing among refugees, and they wanted to help in serving. And many of them help for free. They just give them time. And generally people in Sarajevo and also people in Bosnia and Herzegovina are very warm and very friendly. It's not normal in Sarajevo that somebody would freeze to death. That will not happen. Somebody will somehow provide something. Never heard of somebody dying out of hunger here, because people do have heart. And maybe part of it is because these people suffered a lot. There was war in Bosnia, many Bosnians were refugees themselves, and they know how it feels. They know what it means to be hungry. They know what it feels to not have proper clothes and stuff. And so they are very sympathetic. Yes, I was a refugee. I was living with my parents in East Slavonia. My hometown is Vinkovci, and it was a matter of attack for a long time. My hometown had the nickname Gate of Croatia. But only 15 kilometers air distance is Vukovar, and people are more familiar with Vukovar and disaster that happens, and many people being killed, and Vukovar falling under occupation. And when we were too long without water and food and constantly under shooting and shelling, I decided I'm way too tired. I cannot continue like that. So I went to Germany, to my family, to my aunt, spent several months there. So I also gained experience. What does it mean to be a refugee? And I think that plays a role in my heart also, working with refugees around here. It's not easy. These people don't go just because they are bored at home. In many of these places there is war happening, there is a real critical situation. Some of the countries of origin of refugees, maybe political system is so harsh that the people just cannot see their future under regime. Different refugees have different reasons why they start their way. But it's not just because they want some adventure. Sometimes people think, they can live at home. But most of these cases, when you start conversation, you find out that really they're suffering. Yes, my passion is to see more churches planted. I'm pastor of the, let's say, historic church here, because this church has started in 1863 originally. It was still Ottoman time, but in that time already Austrian Austro-Hungarian Empire started investing. And the very specific story of this building is that the Austro-Hungarians were building a railway from Budapest to Dubrovnik. Dubrovnik wasn't a famous tourist place, it was a port. And so the railway had to pass through Bosnia. And so where we are, there was a crossing of the road and the railway. So there was a hand ramp of the old times. And the first missionary who planted this church, he was German-Czech background. He was basically employer of Austrian railway, but he came purposely actually to plant the church. And so I read the history records, and for first 10 years approximately this was a German-speaking church, because also several other families purposely moved here to see church starting, and they were getting together. But then after that they had first Bosnians baptized, and so it takes an effort. So it's similar now. Sometimes we have somebody who is willing to move to other town, or we have foreigners and we have nationals, and the best is if they can team up. And we would like to see first, of course, large towns reached with the gospel, with some church, local church being there, and then smaller towns and so on. Yes, of course, what we are doing is larger than us, larger than our personal possibility, but also larger than our financial possibility. Of course, locally we like also to give, and we like to provide them as much as we can. But we depend also on the support from outside for finances to be able to buy things for the refugees, to provide food, to provide clothes, to provide shoes. Often we find out it's cheaper actually to get things locally than to import, because in these days, of course, everybody knows about energy crisis, and the gasoline is very expensive and transport is ridiculously expensive. So often it's cheaper to get things locally and just prepare them and give it to refugees rather than trying to collect something and import. And so that's what we are doing. As much as we can receive, we'll use it and give it out. But also volunteers are very helpful if we can have people coming and serving alongside of us, because of course we can always use more hands and more help in achieving any of this, refugee work, evangelism, you name it. There's so much to do. And praise God, we do have this capacity of Kairos Center so that we can accommodate some of the refugees, some of the volunteers, and we can organize things around here. Youth groups would be perfect. We like working with youth groups. It's so nice to have people who are young, with energy. They can gain new experience, and it will be a blessing for them, but it will be also very much a blessing for us, because the job will be done. And so, yes, we very much enjoy youth groups. Also, of course, individuals and small groups occasionally. Yes, volunteers are so much needed.